If you're watching this video, your team, you've checked in on them and they're not doing so hot. It's weird. On paper, everything looks great. They look like superstars. They've got the right degrees and backgrounds and knowledge, skills, and abilities that should add up to a high-performing team. But they're a barely performing team, let alone high-performing. What's the problem here? Real quick, my name is David Burkus, and I study high-performing teams and work with leaders to build their best team ever. I've worked with hundreds of companies, dozens of CEOs. I've read the studies, so you don't have to. Work dynamics are constantly changing, and if you want to know what you need to grow as a leader, then subscribe to my channel and my email newsletter, link in the video description below. All right, let's get into it. So why is your team not working well together? Oh, look, this might sound obvious, but they might not know what to do. And more specifically, they might not know how to work with each other to get it done. Your read on this is, look, I don't want to micromanage, but at the same time, it feels like I have to hold every hand. I have to build every bridge. I have to shepherd every step of this project, one baby step at a time. You don't want that, and I can assure you they don't want that. That is micromanaging. So what's happening? Let's not jump straight into declaring your team incompetent just yet, but maybe it's you. I'm not lecturing you, don't click away, just ask yourself, have you really given them guidance on this project? Have you really made it clear what your expectations for them are? Good, that's a great start. But when it comes to high-performing teams, clear roles and responsibilities are just the start. Yeah, teams need to be clear about what's expected of them, but they also need to be clear about how they're gonna work with everyone else. High-performing teams aren't just one with clarity around their duties. They're also ones that take the time to grow empathy between each teammate. Clarity and empathy, also known as common understanding. And when teams with tons of potential end up fighting each other more often than delivering on their objectives, a lack of common understanding is usually the problem. Managing with empathy doesn't only mean imagining what it's like to be in your colleague's shoes. That's the textbook definition of empathy, sure. But it also means, how do we use that to foster greater collaboration on the team? We know what's expected of us in the work. How do we anticipate how our teammates are going to behave? Here's an example that really illustrates this. Meet Chris Hadfield, Canadian astronaut and former commander of the International Space Station. He had one team, 3 different personalities, 3 different cultures, and 2 different languages. Literally the highest stakes mission.
255 statute miles above the Earth.
Conducting experiments in space. Pretty stressful situation for any team leader. But Chris is a great leader. The team collaborated well. Yeah, they ran into obstacles, but they overcame them. And during the 2 months they were isolated in space, they didn't have a single heated argument.
You've been great, just friends the whole time up here. Really good people to be in space with. And even most importantly, learning about leadership.
Chris knew that in order to get along and collaborate well, they needed to understand each other as much as they understood their mission. Chris was able to build common understanding well before the team left our atmosphere. The clarity part would come from the training, rigorous rules and tons of preparation. And when they were in space, every part of their day was mapped out and planned in 5-minute increments. Imagine that calendar. To learn about his astronauts from Russia and America, Chris spent time in both places, living with and meeting the families of the people he'd be on mission with. He taught himself Russian so he could better communicate with that squad, and he taught the whole team to understand each other interpersonally. He even had them role play how they would act in certain scenarios and how they could react to each other in the most positive way. That intense empathy preparation might seem like a lot, but it came in handy. During the mission, astronaut Tom Marshburn was notified that his mother had passed away, and the only people there to help him mourn were the other astronauts on the mission. And fortunately, Chris had had his team role play how they would act in exactly that scenario. Not exactly, they didn't know it was going to be Tom's mom, but how they would act if they found out that one of their colleagues had lost a loved one while they were in space. And because they understood each other, they were able to get through that obstacle. We all have different personalities, different strengths and weaknesses, different egos, and different needs. And being a great leader means understanding how each member of your team uniquely works at their best. Dr. Anita Williams Woolley, a professor and researcher at Carnegie Mellon University, wanted to understand the science behind why some teams perform great and others fall apart. Is it the quality of the leadership? Is the level of diversity on the team? Is there just one lone genius who carries the team to greatness? Williams Woolley and her colleagues studied 152 teams and gave them a variety of different tasks, from creative thinking tasks to planning tasks to decision-making tasks. FYI, none of these tasks were done in space. So some teams passed and some teams didn't. Why? Was it the IQ of everyone on the team? Well, no. They tested the IQs beforehand, and even teams with high IQs fell apart on certain tasks. How about diversity? Well, the level of cognitive diversity on the team was a factor, but not as big a factor as you'd think. Was it the gender balance on the team? Actually, yes. The higher the proportion of women on the team, the more likely the team was to succeed. But the mere gender ratio wasn't the reason. The single strongest factor was the level of social perceptiveness on the team. Basically, how well can people on the team perceive the emotions of their teammates? That helps the team work better together because it helps them understand what everyone else brings to the table, and it makes planning and coordinating each task much easier. Teams with higher levels of social perceptiveness outscored higher IQ teams on all of it. And yeah, if you're wondering, women scored a whole lot higher on social perceptiveness than men did. Building empathy on a team is a bit of a mysterious process. We can't all move to foreign countries and spend time with each other's families like Chris Hadfield did. But one of the simplest ways we can get started is by spending time doing what looks unproductive, like sharing meals or simply hanging out with each other. Now, there's a sweet spot you have to find here. You can't practice so much empathy that everybody becomes your BFF. These are your colleagues after all. We all have a job we have to get done at the end of the day. Being a good team leader means knowing how each individual works best. If Zoe's prime hours are in the afternoon every day, then maybe don't pick her to do that presentation at 9 a.m. If Patrick's writing style is short and sweet, then don't take his one-sentence reply to your email as a sign that he's checked out. We as humans read way too much into these little differences, and then tension arises and eventually conflict strikes. And if we actually just knew each other's different preferences and work styles, then we could collaborate at peace, and we'd actually be productive. Here's a couple ways to build empathy and find out how your team works best. Unstructured times often happen naturally, like the moments before the meeting when everyone's filing into the conference room, or the moments when a few people join the Zoom call early. But they don't happen often enough on many teams. Look, our days are stacked with meetings on meetings on meetings. And if you're remote, they start on the hour and they end 1 minute before the other hour. And so you don't get enough of this unstructured time that naturally occurs. It's in those unstructured times that people on a team find what psychologists call uncommon commonalities. Things that one or two people on the team have in common with each other that are uncommon to the rest of the group. And those uncommon commonalities, those are the beginnings of bonds and friendships. And if you're not building them naturally, then you're gonna need to build them deliberately. Go to lunch with a couple of your coworkers. Grab coffee on a regular basis. Even a walking meeting during a quick break gives people time to disclose little things about themselves that help us better understand each other and build those uncommon commonalities. I know, these things can quickly become fundatory. A mandatory fun that's not fun at all. You don't want to cross any boundaries. You don't want to ask people to spend too much time away from their families. And look, nobody wants to go play laser tag or frisbee golf with their boss. But the level of awkwardness these activities bring can actually be a clue about how little empathy and how little connection there is on your team. And that's okay. Give it time. This is a long game. Think of this as a user's manual, like the one you have in your car, except this one people are actually gonna read. Ask each of your coworkers to write up a paragraph or two about how they work best. Now, this is gonna be public so that everybody on the team can get a peek at what everybody's unique work style is. Here's an easy template to follow, but they can certainly write whatever they see fit. Finish each sentence. I'm at my best when blank. I'm at my worst when blank. You can count on me to blank. And what I need from the team is blank. Send this request out to your team, give them some time to reflect and write up their answers, and then regroup so that each person can share. And by the way, you're the leader. You go first. You lead by example, and that way they understand your work style too. Here's mine, for example. I'm at my best when I have a dedicated space to work where I can close off distractions. I'm at my worst when I don't have any buffer time between meetings. You can count on me to figure out any annoying Excel formula errors. And what I need from the team is patience, reading through long emails and typing out equally long responses. This one is easy, but really effective. Consider starting a few different public displays of appreciation on your team. It shouldn't be surprising that research suggests that high-performing teams express significantly more gratitude to each other than other groups. What is surprising is why those other groups don't do it. This could be a weekly ritual at the end of every meeting where each person shares something they appreciate about someone else. And pay attention here, you're gonna wanna make sure that everybody gets at least one kudos. Or it could be a weekly email or something in the Slack channel where people are giving each other shout outs. It could even just be you taking the time to write specific thank you notes to different people on your team and then watching as the team starts to adopt that behavior team-wide. Some of these activities are gonna happen once and you might not see the result right away, but they will compound. Empathy takes time, but it's worth it. Great teams play chess, not checkers. In checkers, every piece is the same and it all moves the same. In chess, every piece is different, has different strengths and weaknesses, but you can win with just about every piece. Your team has different knowledge, skills, and abilities, different strengths and weaknesses, different preferences. But together, as you understand those and you understand how to play chess, you'll understand how to win. If you're looking to lead smarter, then subscribe to my channel right here for more helpful insights just like this. And if you've got a question or a problem, leave a comment below. I'm here and this channel is here to help you build your best team ever.